In late 2012, a chilling message appeared on Facebook, sparking a mystery that would captivate the nation. "Help, I've been kidnapped." The post came from the account of Cassandra, a 24-year-old nurse who had vanished without a trace. Her family was frantic, her friends were bewildered, and law enforcement was racing against the clock. This wasn't just a missing person case, it was a race to save a life supposedly hanging by a thread. But as the days turned into weeks, the story of Cassandra's disappearance would unravel into something far more complex and bizarre than anyone could have ever imagined. Was she a victim, a manipulator, or something else entirely? Today, we are diving deep into the baffling case of the missing nurse who was found alive, but was no longer the person anyone thought they knew. Let's rewind to October 26, 2012. Cassandra, a bright and dedicated nurse from a small town, was finishing her shift. She was known for her bubbly personality and her passion for helping others. By all accounts, she was a normal young woman with a loving family, a steady job, and a bright future. She lived with her parents and was described as responsible and always in contact. So, when she didn't come home after her shift, alarm bells started ringing immediately. Her mother tried calling her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. A gnawing sense of dread began to creep in. The family reported her missing the very next day. Police began their investigation, starting with Cassandra's last known movements. She had left the hospital as usual. Her car was found abandoned on a highway bridge, a detail that immediately sent shivers down everyone's spines. The car was unlocked, her purse and phone were inside, but Cassandra was gone. This wasn't the typical scene of someone who had simply decided to run away. It looked like she had vanished into thin air. The community rallied together, organizing search parties and plastering her face on flyers across the state. The media picked up the story, and soon, "Where is Cassandra?" was a question on everyone's lips. Then, the case took a dramatic and terrifying turn. A message appeared on Cassandra's Facebook page. It was short, desperate, and sent a wave of panic through her family and the online community following her case. "Help, I've been kidnapped." The post was quickly deleted, but not before thousands saw it. Was it Cassandra crying out for help? Or was it her abductor taunting the police and her loved ones? This digital breadcrumb intensified the search. The FBI was called in to assist local police, treating the case as a high-priority abduction. The public's imagination ran wild. Theories swirled online. Was it a stranger? Someone she knew? A patient from the hospital? Every possibility seemed more horrifying than the last. As investigators dug deeper into Cassandra's life, they started to uncover some inconsistencies. While her family portrayed her as a happy-go-lucky young woman, some friends hinted at a more troubled side. They spoke of recent mood swings and a sense of being overwhelmed. But these were just whispers, easily dismissed in the face of a potential kidnapping. The focus remained on finding her, alive. The Facebook post, however, was a key piece of evidence. Digital forensic experts traced the IP address of the post. It didn't lead them to a kidnapper's den. Instead, it led them to a public library, in a different state. This was the first major crack in the story everyone believed. Meanwhile, Cassandra's family was living a nightmare. Her mother gave heart-wrenching interviews, pleading for her daughter's safe return. "If you have her, just let her go. We won't ask any questions. We just want our baby back," she cried on national television. Her father, a stoic man, stood by her side, his face etched with worry. Their pain was palpable, and it fueled the public's desire for justice and for Cassandra's safe return. Donations poured in for a reward fund. The community refused to give up hope. But the police were following a different trail, one that was leading them away from the abduction theory. They discovered that in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Cassandra had made some unusual financial transactions. She had withdrawn a significant amount of cash from her bank account. She had also purchased a burner phone, a prepaid, untraceable cell phone. These weren't the actions of someone who was about to be snatched from their life. These were the actions of someone planning to disappear. The police were now faced with a difficult dilemma. Do they tell the public and the family that they suspect Cassandra left on her own, potentially jeopardizing her safety if she was indeed in trouble? Or do they continue the abduction narrative? They chose to keep their suspicions quiet for the time being, continuing the search. But the evidence was mounting. Security footage from a bus station 100 miles from her home showed a woman matching Cassandra's description buying a ticket. She was alone, and she didn't appear to be in any distress. She was wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, seemingly trying to disguise her appearance. The ticket was for a cross-country bus, with a final destination thousands of miles away on the West Coast. The mystery was deepening. Why would a young nurse, with a seemingly perfect life, orchestrate her own disappearance in such a dramatic fashion? The pressure was immense. The media frenzy was at its peak, and every day without news was another day of torture for her family. But then, after 42 agonizing days, the breakthrough came. A tip led police to a small, unassuming motel on the outskirts of a coastal city. They found Cassandra in one of the rooms. She was alive. She was physically unharmed. But she was not the same person. When officers entered the room, she was calm, almost detached. She didn't seem surprised to see them. And when they told her that her family was desperate with worry, her reaction was chillingly indifferent. The story she told police was a far cry from the kidnapping tale that had gripped the nation. She admitted she had left on her own. She explained that she felt trapped by the expectations of her family and her small-town life. She felt suffocated by the pressure to be the perfect daughter, the perfect nurse, the perfect friend. The disappearance, she said, was her only way out. She had meticulously planned it for months, saving money, buying the burner phone, and even staging her car on the bridge to make it look like foul play. The Facebook post? She had logged in at a library along her bus route and posted it herself, a calculated move to throw everyone off her trail and buy herself more time. The public's reaction was swift and brutal. The sympathy and compassion that had poured out for the victim quickly turned to anger and betrayal. People who had spent weeks searching for her, praying for her, and donating money felt duped. They called her a liar, an attention seeker, and a fraud. The media, which had built her up as a tragic heroine, now painted her as a manipulative villain. The comments on social media were relentless. She should pay back all the money spent on the search. One person wrote, "What about the real missing people who need help?" Another commented, "The court of public opinion had found her guilty." But was it really that simple? As the dust settled, a more nuanced and tragic picture began to emerge. Cassandra wasn't a monster. She was a young woman in the throes of a severe mental health crisis. Psychologists who later evaluated her spoke of a dissociative fugue state, a rare psychiatric disorder where a person experiences reversible amnesia for their personal identity, sometimes involving unplanned travel or wandering. This can be triggered by intense stress or trauma. Cassandra's perfect life was, in reality, a source of immense pressure that had become unbearable. She felt she was living a life that wasn't her own, and her mind created a drastic escape plan. Her actions, while deceptive, were not born from malice, but from a place of deep psychological distress. She hadn't intended to cause her family such pain or to waste police resources. In her fractured mental state, it seemed like the only logical solution to an impossible problem. The case of Cassandra highlights a critical but often overlooked aspect of mental health. The line between rational behavior and actions driven by a troubled mind can be incredibly blurry. It also forces us to ask some uncomfortable questions. How do we, as a society, react when the victim we were rooting for turns out to be the architect of their own story? Do we withdraw our empathy? This story is a tragedy, not because of a kidnapping that never happened, but because of the very real suffering that did. Cassandra's family was left to grapple with the fact that the daughter they thought they knew was a stranger to them in some ways. They had missed the signs of her silent struggle. Cassandra herself had to face the public's wrath while trying to piece her own mind back together. She returned home, not to a hero's welcome, but to whispers and glares. She had to rebuild her life from the ashes of a public spectacle she herself had created. The legal system also struggled with how to respond. She was charged with making a false report, a misdemeanor. It was a slap on the wrist in the eyes of many, but a formal recognition that her actions had consequences. The case of Cassandra is a powerful and sobering reminder. It reminds us that things are often not as they seem. It challenges our black and white view of victims and villains. It underscores the devastating impact of untreated mental health issues and the immense pressure that can hide behind a smiling face. While the search for Cassandra ended, her journey to healing was just beginning. It's a story that calls for less judgment and more compassion, for looking beyond the sensational headlines to understand the complex human struggles that lie beneath. It's a reminder that sometimes the most desperate cries for help don't sound like cries at all. If you or someone you know is struggling, please know that there is help available. You don't have to disappear to find a way out. Reaching out is a sign of strength. We'll leave some resources in the description below. Thank you for watching, and please, take care of yourselves and each other.